Kia ora koutou. Welcome to HR Chats with me, Te Radar, where we chat all things HR and HR related. And if there is, as you know, anything you want us to chat about or anyone you would like us to chat to, then feel free to contact HRNZ through the website today. Very exciting, tangential slightly perhaps to the world of HR, but I think very interrelated. We're talking to Bridget Williams. She is the founder of social enterprise Bead Proceed, which exists to educate people about the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. Some of you will be no doubt familiar with them. Certainly HRNZ has them as something it adheres to. As a former solicitor, Bridget thrives solving complex problems and practicing effective leadership in her governance roles, and no shortage of those. She's also a member of the Asia New Zealand Foundation Leadership Network, curator of the World Economic Forum Global Shapers Christchurch Hubs. She's speaking us from Christchurch right now. Good morning, Bridget. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fantastic. Thank you so much, Radar.
Hey, thank you for joining us. Look, you know, you were a lawyer at some stage, and then at some point you suddenly went, you know what, that's enough. I'm done. Done with that, and you moved on. What? Give us a little bit, sort of a little primer as to the background of Bridget Williams.
Yeah, of course. Where to start? Well, I suppose being from Christchurch, obviously, I was I experienced the Christchurch earthquakes, and through that, I was a student at UCSA, and there was a movement that you may remember called the Student Volunteer Army, and that really instilled my love and appreciation for active citizenship and service. And I was lucky enough to be president of the Student Volunteer Army for 2013 and 2014, and that really kicked off my appreciation for being a part of something, and that young people have a voice, and we should use it. So from that, I became an elected community board member for the Whenua Waimari Harewood Community Board. And it was through all of these experiences that I understood the importance of that concept, being a part of something that is bigger than you, but better because of you.
I'm curious, Bridget. You know, you just used a term that I think is not often used, and is quite important, particularly in this day and age. Active citizenship.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Oh, okay. So, active citizenship, I think it has it's a big word that means a lot of different things. But for me, I think it's about really taking part in your community and appreciating the privilege and recognizing the privilege that you have, and wanting to be a voice for other people, wanting to be a voice for what you're passionate about. And for me, I'm a big fan of the ancient Greeks, and right back to Pericles when he was like strategoi of Athens, so that's like the mayor of Athens, and he really instilled this appreciation for you to be a lover of your city. And that's very easy to do in Christchurch or Te Tahi because we've been through so much. So we've really come together as a community, and the wonderful space to maximize ideas and creativity, and to really play a part in your community. And for me, I see that as active citizenship.
Marvelous. Sorry to cut you off. I just thought it was kind of good to explain, the concept of what that meant, and also nice to be thrown back to the Greeks. They were pretty useful, inventing thinking.
Yeah. Oh, I love them. When I studied law, and I also studied political science and classics. So that was one of my majors. And I think there's so much, when I look back in the past and where we've come from as a society, we are sort of going back a bit to how the ancient Greeks appreciated life. It was through that time of philosophy, the golden mean, all of these wonderful, like stoicism, all of these concepts that we still use today. And we seem to be drawing more attention to even now.
Everything that was old is new again, in many ways. Great. So this was all going on. You sort of moved, away from university, practiced law for a little bit.
Yeah. So I studied really hard at UC, University of Canterbury, for my law degree. I was lucky enough to get a scholarship with law, and then I went on to being a summer clerk, and I got a grad position at a great law firm. And I was working as a solicitor for almost 3 years, but I just found that there was something inside me that I wasn't I wasn't practicing anymore. And for me, that was creativity. And I remember just feeling incredibly confused because this is what I was doing. I was doing what I thought I loved and what I worked so hard towards. Yet I was very unhappy. And one day I had a particular bad day at court, and I came home and I was just feeling this pent up frustration. I felt like I wasn't adding value to the firm, to the client, to the world, or to myself. So one day I decided to make a necklace, and I saw this necklace on Pinterest that I had been wanting to make for a while. It had these 5 big beads, and I painted. I was getting lost in the creativity and the flow of it. Ideas were coming, and it was just this wonderful thing to put some energy into something positive. And then I wore it to work the next day, and a bunch of people started commenting on it and asked, where did I get it from? Could I make them one? And I thought, maybe there's something here. Maybe people are also craving this tactile creativity. We need more of it in our lives. So I thought, well, I could start these workshops where people come together to, make necklaces or bracelets or key rings. And I thought, well, that's all good, but what does it mean? Like, what's the message? And then honestly, like 2 days later, I was flipping through a magazine and I came across the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. And there they were in all their colorful glory, and everything clicked. I thought, what if these 5 beads represent your top 5 sustainable development goals that you want to work on? So now this also represents not just, a commitment to your top 5 as you physically wear it, but it also serves as a conversation starter to help spread awareness about these goals. And also take time to get together to discuss them and come up with creative solutions to solve them. And that's basically how Bead Proceed was formed. So I sort of sat on the idea though, and it wasn't until I got funding from the United Nations to help kickstart kits and launch them, which was amazing.
Sorry, what do you, like, fill out a form online?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
So this is a really important lesson that I learned for any entrepreneur is never be afraid to share your idea. Definitely share it with as many people as you can. I feel like a lot of people tend to hold on to their ideas, thinking they're the most precious thing and someone might steal them. But I was very comfortable with talking to people about them and bouncing the idea off other people. And I told one of my friends, and she happened to be at a networking event where someone from the United Nations Christchurch branch was there, and she told them about Bead Proceed and the concept of it aligning to the Sustainable Development Goals, and they said she needs to contact us and pitch for funding because we would love to help her. So it was
It's amazing, isn't it? Like, some far-flung branch manager of the UN in the tiny Christchurch office, probably a cupboard at the back of their house.
So, yeah. Well, every I assume every city in New Zealand has an association branch. So it was the Christchurch one that helped fund us. So thanks to them that Bead Proceed really launched.
Never really considered that as a thing. You always think the UN's tucked away over there. They don't have the sort of, provincial branch managers,
Yeah.
Look, and I think that's kind of one of those important things, isn't it? And we're seeing that a lot. We certainly see a lot of sharing of ideas and initiatives through HRNZ and things like that. When someone has that idea, to share it so that other people can not necessarily pick it up themselves, but help to enhance it or to provide access, or, as you say, serendipitously drop it into conversation somewhere else, and all of a sudden the UN is chasing you. For people who don't know what they are, the SDGs, the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals, you want to just very quickly explain what they are?
Yeah, of course. So the acronym SDGs stands for Sustainable Development Goals, and there are 17 of them, and they address the biggest issues in today's society. So from climate action to gender equality, health and well-being, poverty, life on land, life below waters, and all UN member states, that's 193, including New Zealand, have adopted the SDGs. So they are the largest recognised framework for sustainability. The thing is, we actually adopted them back in 2015, and not enough people even know that. They don't even know that they exist. and there's a deadline. We have until 2030 to achieve them. So yeah, that's the mission that we're on.
That's close. Hey, look, now I'm going to throw kind of a contemporary cat into the mix here, because probably if some people may have heard of these, because there has been a rise of various political movements that say that these are part of the kind of the new world order, and you know what I mean. There's also so some people may not have heard of them within the actual context of what they are, and I think it's probably important that we maybe touch on that, because they're not part of a kind of a globalist takeover, are they? They're I've read them. They're really important.
They are incredibly important, and the thing is, they've actually been in development for over 45 years. So sustainable development goes back to 1972. That was when, I guess, the UN and world leaders really had an appreciation for this collision course of our economy versus our environment, right? And we had a set of goals before the SDGs that had proven some really effective results, called the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals. And basically they found that having goal-based initiatives is a wonderful way to bring people on a collective journey to, have a deadline and a goal in sight, and to take everyone on that journey. And the key thing about the SDGs is the notion to leave no one behind. And so it's about including everyone, because we all have a responsibility to action these goals. But obviously, all member states had the option to adopt them, but it's a framework that is incredibly useful. And not only that, but it's a very important one, as they focus on all areas of sustainability. That's economic, social, and environmental. So therefore, they're relevant to every industry. So I call myself a self-professed SDG nerd, because I just think we can connect so much with them on different levels.
Yeah. Hey, I liked what you were saying around that sense of the importance of having a goal and taking everyone on that journey. If we take this back into the kind of, I guess, the world of employment and HR, that's one of those important things there, isn't it? That if you can, because clearly you know what the goals are and you can articulate them, you can see where that journey is going, and this is helping you to travel along that path. When organizations, if they're not clear around what their goals are, if not everyone's a part of that goal, if not everyone's kind of got buy-in, there's a nice similarity there.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a massive thing we try and do with Bead and Proceed. So we see there are businesses now more than ever that are aligning themselves to the SDGs. They are using it as a great way to report on them, to demonstrate what they value and care about. And that's wonderful. But I think the missed opportunity is when businesses fail to take everyone on that journey, right? And that's a great way to do it genuinely and authentically, because the
does that differentiate the businesses that are ticking the boxes, so they can say that, and those that are going on that authentic journey? Because that's an important. Do you see businesses where you go, you know what, this is not, I can see that this is not authentic for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's important at the end of the day that all businesses have to start somewhere, right? So it might be a bit of a box ticking exercise at the start, because they are simply wanting to bring awareness to the SDGs, and that's great. That's needed in itself. But I do see businesses that tend to play what I call SDG Bingo, which is where they say, okay, well, we work in this industry, we're in this field, so we care about that goal, that one, and we also care about well-being, so we'll slap that on as part of our goals as well. But I think it's really important that businesses take a step back and actually think, hold on, what do we care about? And also, what do our staff care about? So we can make sure that we are aligning to goals that, they value as well, so staff can feel valued. And that's where I think HR have a massive opportunity and should really pay attention to the SDGs, because it's a great way to demonstrate what your company or organization cares about. And it even has, it speaks a global language. So it's got that international reach. And the other thing is that there are also SDGs that directly affect and impact HR. So, for example, SDG 5 is gender equality, SDG 10 is reduced inequalities, and there's SDG 3, health and well-being. And I would like to think that a robust HR would care about those three, right? So it's a great way to implement them into the business.
Because you could, in a way, take the concept of them, that they're global goals, and actually, if you brought them into a sort of that's the macro thing. If you brought them into the business and said, if we were the world, how many of these do our business fulfill? And if we were looking to change some of them, and if you're looking for, say, a team building exercise or something like that, which I'm sure
Yes.
Bead Proceed is perfect for, to say, look, as an organization, what is important to us versus what is important, in a wider context. Is that the kind of discussions that you have? Like you obviously, people come in with Bead and Proceed, you use it for focus, for team building, various other things.
Yep, that's it, exactly. So for Bead and Proceed, it's looking at it first on a personal perspective, right? Like, what are the 5 goals that you care about as an individual and that you can make some real authentic impact in? So there's a great concept called effective altruism, which is basically that everyone wants to do good, but the trick is to do real good is to actually do something that you can realistically do. So that's why I see the goals as being a great way to align to your business, because not every company or organization is going to achieve all 17. It's a bit of a stretch, right? But the cool thing is that all the SDGs are interconnected, so they will have this like knock-on effect. But it's a great way to focus. What does the company care about? What is it already doing? And what could we go to? How could we go to the next step so we are achieving that SDG and working on it? Not just looking at it from we care about well-being or we care about life below water, but actually how can we work towards that specific target? Because the SDGs have targets underneath them, and altogether there are 169 targets. And that's another thing we do with Bead and Proceed. We actually help the organization appreciate and align themselves to the targets, not just the goal itself.
We see a lot of businesses, who want to go out and do something altruistic. They'll say, we're shutting the shop today and everyone's off to go and do some kind of community work or to go and do a project. Can you talk around the kind of your sense of what works for businesses within that world, and maybe what doesn't, or what works when they encourage staff or allow staff the time to go and do something within the community?
I mean, I think it's valuable to make time. It goes back to that active citizenship, right? That we were talking about at the start. But I think there's real power in perhaps giving the staff member the autonomy to decide where they want to put their energy. And the SDG framework is a good way to think about that, to actually think about, hold on, where do we want to make impact? What does the world need right now? Rather than just, let's go and plant a bunch of trees, which is amazing, but what's the end goal? What's the why? And so the SDGs are a great tool to help with that. We are a nation that prides itself on being firsts, right?
Yeah.
We were the first country to get, women the right to vote. And there's also something in the water here in Christchurch as well, as the apartheid movement, I believe, was kicked off in Otatahi too. Obviously, the Student Volunteer Army was also kicked off here as well. But I would like to say that there is something in the water within New Zealand around us rallying together. I mean, we saw that with COVID, right? And I think that's a really important thing, because right now we are in the international spotlight. The world is very curious about New Zealand with how we responded to the COVID. They're very fascinated by Jacinda's leadership. And I think we shouldn't waste that opportunity. And for me, I see New Zealand championing the SDGs as being that next step. That's where I would like to see us focus as well, because we already live and breathe sustainability. We care about it deeply in this nation. So why not use the international framework so we can continue to grow that awareness and show the world and be an example for other states? I think that's just a natural step for us.
Talk to me about the importance of spontaneity and play and bringing that back into people's lives, if it's for whatever reason, disappeared from their day?
Yeah, so a big thing, I should actually say that how Bead and Proceed works is it's really simple. We bring people together to each make a 5 beaded bracelet, necklace, or keyring that represents their top 5 SDGs that they want to work on. And for us, that creativity part is very important. It's not accidental. So these SDGs, to solve them, they're going to require out-of-the-box solutions, and creativity sparks creativity. So that's why we have a creative activity. But the other key thing is there's just something about the painting and the making that just strips hierarchy, and it really does create a safe space to have authentic discussion, to open up about one's values, what they care about. So that's where it becomes a great team building activity, and it provides a tool to have some really not tough discussions, but to discuss some really tough and heavy topics. But it's important that we do it in a way that's uplifting and positive, because these are some pretty heavy discussions. The other key thing as well is, obviously there's all that well-being part that comes behind it, the distraction therapy, taking time to slow down, to be creative and tactile, and to come away with the finished product that anchors the learning is also very important. So people have the sense of achievement, and obviously it serves as a conversation starter when you wear it. But I just think now more than ever, we as a society, I think we've forgotten that tactile play, right? We live in such a digital, virtual, tech world, and there's nothing wrong with that. I definitely think tech has a massive part to play in achieving some of these SDGs, but I do think that we are craving time together to actually be creative.
Because as you
Physically.
say, the studies all show that when you're doing something like that, the brain functions in a different kind of way. Synapses are sparked, and I'm thinking, look, this is throughout this whole conversation, I've been thinking around this period we're in at the moment, where people are looking to be retrained, where HR is looking to upskill their employees, and often they're sent on some kind of practical course. But I suspect your background is a little similar to mine. Here you are, you're talking classics, political philosophy, the nature of philosophy itself, that kind of broader thinking. There's it's also important to remind people that actually all of those subjects, sending someone off on a course on, philosophy, for example, actually may bring them back a far more useful person than send them off to upscale to the next level of Excel.
Yeah.
Is there a next level of Excel?
Yeah. Definitely. I think there's something to be said about, looking to the past to help with future problems. History has a way of repeating itself, and I think a lot of our answers can be found when we look back. I do think that side has sort of been forgotten. I don't know why, but society just tends to just not value creativity as much. And I think that's a real reason why, for me personally, I had always been quite a creative person, but I put it in a box, I put it to the side, and I did law. And, you would argue that law is also creative in some ways. But for me, I was really craving that practical creativity. But I didn't think it was anything I could pursue, because I knew, especially my parents, that they didn't want me. That wasn't a direction that I could ever foresee going in. So
what kind of law were you doing, out of curiosity?
Oh, I was doing litigation, so court work and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Just sitting there, just feeling your soul being killed daily by paragraphs 7 subclause 4, which is, a very creative clause, but mind-numbingly disciplined. Can creativity be taught or relearned?
Oh, for sure. And I think, so my friend wrote a really fantastic article around the different types of creativity. And I think creativity is seen in different areas, right? So, there's like that interpersonal creativity. So the person who has the ability to connect with people's emotions, right? Whether that is political leaders or, psychologists, and then there's also that, you know, kinesthetic creative, which is, you know, your Picassos, your artists, but also I'd argue your architects and that sort of thing. And yeah, and so I think there's a whole spectrum of creativity. But for me, I think, yeah, I just feel as though society has sort of, we lose that kinetic, tactile creativity at quite a young age. We get to a point where after, you know, high school, unless, you know, you've decided to do art as a subject, you know, society tends to just say, okay, enough of that, that's child's play. And then they put you in front of a computer or in front of Excel or something like that. And for me, I think, well, wait, why are we saying goodbye to that? That's super important, because as you said, we do get into a space, you know, in the brain that activates, you know, it connects in a different way. Going back to that, what I was saying, creativity sparks creativity. And it also obviously puts you in a state of flow to think up other ideas. And that was really what I got when I made my necklace. And that's what I wanted to share with other people.
Look, I'm on board. I can understand all of this. But I imagine, you know, if you're looking to sell this sometimes, you know, to a business to say, hey, look, your people would really benefit from this. And they go, you want us to turn up and paint some beads and talk about equality? What's the point? You know, is there any criticism? You know, obviously, you know, you're a pretty persuasive person, and what you've said is, you know, sounds utterly convincing. But what's the sort of, you know, the obstacles in the way of getting people on board?
Yeah. So, Radar, there's definitely that obstacle, and that's one that I really enjoy sinking my teeth into. So there are those two schools of thoughts. There's one audience that completely understands Bead and Proceed. They get it. They understand and appreciate that the beads are a metaphor. They are a tool to create rich discussion, to open up about, you know, what staff care about, and to help the business start its journey to strategically align against the goals. But then there is this other school of thought, which do sort of go, really? Beads? Sounds a bit like child's play. And that school of thought I find very frightening and worrying, because how on earth are we ever going to solve these massive problems if we're too uncomfortable to paint beads, right? So I really enjoy challenging people on that school of thought. And we do get people from time to time when we want to run our workshops with corporates, and, you know, we'll meet with the team, and they'll say, oh, you know, this person here, like, I'm not sure, they might be a bit uncomfortable. And I always say to them, wow, let's get them uncomfortable, right? Magic happens outside of the comfort zone. And I've never had a workshop to date where, you know, people have said, this was a waste of time. Like, honestly, everyone gets so into it because we miss it, because people haven't done it in ages. You know, you just see them sort of, you know, opening up the paint pots and mixing all the paint together, and they sort of just like reconnect with that younger self. And they haven't, you can just tell they've missed it for a while.
Yeah, it's a lovely thing to do. I'm thinking about, just very quickly before we finish, the kind of the notion of leadership. We've seen some great leaders come out of that student army, haven't we? You know, they were there anyway. They may have gone on to become leaders. What is it about a crisis? And you know, you've got the time to look back at the earthquake, which was a sudden cataclysmic crisis. Do you see any similarities in terms of encouraging leaders and leadership and things coming through this kind of COVID period?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think with crisis, I guess, you know, oh wait, I want to think about this answer actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question because they're two very different kinds of events, you know, and there's been a lot written about that kind of immediate event and what happens, and then the long ongoing event. I guess it's more just a question of, you know, any thoughts on the kind of the notion of what it took to make a good leader. But let's focus on Christchurch. If we look at the Christchurch event and the student army came out, what was it that distinguished those people? Were they natural leaders? Did they learn on the spot? How did that leadership develop? How did they get the followers in a way to facilitate the work that they did?
I would say it would come back to obviously the ability to mobilize for a cause that was very clear, right? The my understanding is when the leaders of the Student Volunteer Army, first established it, it was about let's clean up the city. It was a very clear direction. And then also the other key thing is the students, they weren't at university. They had a bit of time on their hands. So what better way to bring people together than for something like service? And I think it was through that, the mobilization of that collective vision, right? That collective goal, which has sort of been a theme of today's discussion. And then it's that buzz you get when you're, serving and helping someone else. There's always been this theory of thought that service and volunteering is actually selfish because you get so much out of it. So I would say it really was about rallying and mobilizing a collective group of people together who were eager to do something, and then actually physically doing it, realizing that everyone was sort of a part of this journey, and really feeling like they were a part of a community and a part of a movement, which it was.
People want to be a part of a movement. They want to feel as if they're doing something, positive and good. If people want to do some work with Bead and Proceed, how do they get in touch? Just go to the website. You're franchising, sending out branches, to Hokitika and Dargaville.
Yeah, so there's a few ways to get involved. So you can purchase a Bead and Proceed kit online, and you can run your own workshop, and that caters to 7 people. The kits are a story in themselves. They are SDG aligned, and our model is 1 for 1. So for every kit purchase, another is donated to either a low decile school or a deserving community organisation. We also run SDG workshops, so they are called Bead and Proceed Epics. And that's really for businesses, organisations that are keen to upskill in their SDG learning, start that journey. It's a fully facilitated workshop hosted by yours truly, but it's really exciting. We're actually starting a facilitation program, so we can run them at the same time in all different areas, but we run them all throughout New Zealand already. And then the last part is Bead and Proceed Impact. So we're really keen for Bead and Proceed to be an activity that you can do at a summit or a large scale event or a conference, because I just think what's super important about the SDGs is to appreciate that they are relevant to every industry. And they,
I mean, HRNZ, themselves have embraced, particularly because you need to focus down as you go. What have they got out of the 17? Good health and well-being. G4, quality education, gender equality, industry influence and innovation, reducing inequality, responsible consumption and production, decent work and economic growth, climate action. All of those, absolutely fitting within the HR field. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the beautiful thing about the goals is, it's impossible not to connect with them. So take some time to figure out what would be your 5. It doesn't have to be 5. And a big thing that we like to say, if with Bead and Proceed, is just to encourage people, at the end of the day, why do we do this? Well, it's to, be the change you want to see in the world, but we say bead the change. Fun pun.
Good one. Did you take the day off and have a chai latte after that? That's a good one. I like that. Be the change you want to be. Hey, look, and the other thing I was thinking with this, again, it's that consciousness of these things, isn't it? You don't need a huge organization. You can do this in your sports club. You could do it with your family. You could at a marae, a church, whatever it may be. You may look at these and go, you know what? These are the things we really need to think about. How do we promote all of this within our little subgroups, and then it filters out from there. So it doesn't necessarily need to be, just a huge business, although that is another platform to do it on.
Yeah, exactly. That's the beautiful thing about the goals. They are relevant to everyone, and we all have a responsibility to action them, which is why they're also known as the people's goals. But the biggest thing is to just, actually take some time to learn about them, talk to people about, what they are, what would your top 5 be? And just to educate yourself on them, and to remember that there is that deadline looming. So the other important thing I should actually say, Radar, is there's something special about this year. So 2020, the United Nations have coined as the start of the decade of action, as we have 10 years left to achieve the SDGs. So it is crunch time. New Zealand does have, we can we're currently sitting at number 16 on the global SDG rank, and I would love to see us move into those top 3 spots, because I think we can, and we should do it well. The international spotlight is on us as well.
We absolutely should. Brilliant. Bridget Williams, founder of social enterprise Bead and Proceed, far more worthy goal than sitting in court and arguing about clause 2, subsection 3 of paragraph 5 in a litigation thing. What's next for you, very briefly? More of this, more of the same.
Yeah, we'll definitely want to run the facilitation program, and the other thing is to get Bead and Proceed into schools. So we would love to, we'd love to run our workshops all through our primary schools first, because they're the future. So these issues are going to be affecting them.
Marvellous. Bridget Williams from Bead and Proceed. You can get in touch with them through the website, Bead and Proceed, and you can find the UN SDGs, no doubt, just on the UN, or go and see your local UN representative. Thank you very much, Bridget. We will be back with another HR chats at some other stage in the future. Just a reminder, if there's anyone you want us to talk to or anything to talk about, get in touch with HRNZ through the website. For now, from me to Radar, that's all.